The net worth game is the game everyone plays whether they know it or not. Here, we pick up where traditional schooling failed at educating the truth about money. Think financial success seems to be a secret only a few know? Well, this show aims to demystify and deconstruct wealth accumulation. Not wealthy, not successful yet. It's not your fault. The information isn't taught in school. Let's uncover the secrets to growing wealthier together. Now, here's your host, Josh Darville, with the Net Worth Game.
You like it? That's a pretty good intro. All right. So on the show today, we got Terry Thayer. He is a entrepreneur. He does a lot of really interesting things. Has a few different businesses, one of which is you have these Amazon stores that sell products on Amazon and Walmart. But I think, is that the thing that took off first, or was it real estate first? There's all kinds of questions I'm going to ask you. But so Terry Thayer, he also runs TAB, which is the absolute best, right? That's what it stands for. And he does these retreats, which are awesome. He's been in the Legacy Mastermind with Tim Bratz, and good friends with another friend of mine, Javier. I've been out to a TAB seminar. It's awesome. He's flipped a whole lot of houses. Terry's been, you're a licensed GC as well, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
So there's a huge wealth of knowledge and experience on the show today. And so let's just kind of dive into it. Terry, if you want to add to this intro at all, I mean, I know you're also married, you have some kids, a dog, I think, right?
I do. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Dog, 9 yards. Yeah. So to answer your question about the journey of what started first, the chicken or the egg, real estate came before e-commerce, right? Just quick overview. I got started in business for myself 25 years ago. I got started in real estate 20 years ago. Started off as a contractor, realized that, you know what, I felt like I was at the bottom of the food chain and I wanted to be at the top of the food chain, and the builder, the investor, like that was the guy I wanted to be. So when I got my GC license back in 02, and well, actually 01, I started that. And then in 02, I actually started in business buying my first property, cutting the roof off, putting a second floor addition. And that's where things started. And since then, I've bought many houses where we put additions onto them, just rehabbed them, or tore them down and build new homes. And today, what things look like is we build about 30 to 50 new builds every single year. All of them are nowadays, over the last couple of years, are $1 million and up, over $1 million, because they used to be in the, like, basically, it's funny how things just evolve. It used to be like we were in the 350 to 500, and then we were in the 550 to 750, and now it's like we can't even sell anything. And then it was 750, and now it's like every property that goes to market, we go to market maybe on the low end 950, and by the time it gets bid over, it's over $1 million. Or someone comes in early enough and they want to add all these extras in there and drive the price up. We have one right now, I think it started at 925. It's at like 1.2 or 1.3 million with extras as well, or extras at this point from a new build. So that's what we're doing. The new build side and the flipping side, very little. I can care less if I ever flip a property ever again. I'm not interested in flipping properties. We focus on market acquisitions, wholesaling, and new builds. We had a bunch of rental properties at one point in time, where we've gotten rid of most of them. The ones that we're keeping are going to be Airbnbs. So all short-term rentals, getting rid of all the long-term rentals. And this year we're getting into a different asset class, which is going to be multi-tenant triple net lease buildings is what we're looking to focus on.
Okay. All right. I have a ton of questions just off that. All right. Multifamily triple net lease. Now,
yes,
that is interesting to me because with the Tim Bratzes and Javier's and stuff, I know that. I went with Javier to Havelock, and we looked at this 72 unit building that he bought. That's home run, awesome deal. But he's now managing 72 units with a 72 unit. So you're basically allowing somebody to do, I believe the word is arbitrage, right? Airbnb arbitrage is where you don't own the property.
No, no, I'm not doing arbitrage. We own all our properties
But when
that
you
we're
say
Airbnb.
when you say a triple net lease, you're allowing a management company to come in and be the management company of a multifamily.
No. I don't want to have anything to do with multifamily. So let
Okay.
me explain. So multifamily, so single. I was doing single family. What I call single family, 1 to 4 units, right? We've sold everything. We sold like 40 properties in the last couple of years that we've owned for a little while, last year and a half or so. We have a few more that we just got tenants out. We're flipping them as soon as they're ready to go. We're putting it on the market. We're selling those properties. I have 6 properties that we're doing Airbnbs. They were actually new builds. I was going to sell them. We decided to keep them. We have some more new builds that we're looking, and these are actually $1 million new builds that we're trying to decide whether we want to keep 2 or 3 of them, and we're going to make those high-end Airbnbs. Still evaluating that. Now, triple net lease. Triple net lease is going to be, a traditional triple net lease that people look at is like over here. I'm looking out my office window and I see a building that has payway in it. I'm looking at a building that has the L house in it. Okay. So somebody payway leases this building from a landlord, right? And triple net lease is basically they pay all the taxes, the insurance, the mortgage, like they pay for everything. If that building right there needs a new roof, the management company comes to them and says, "Hey, this building needs a new roof. You've got to pay for a new roof." And there's multiple different ways that could be done, or it could even be the parking lot needs to be replaced. They are in charge of keeping that asset up to par. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So all the expenses are with the tenant, and typically those are very
Correct.
very long leases, like 30 years.
They could be 10, 15, 20 years. There's so many different ways to skin that cat. Now, when I say multi-tenant, I don't want the building that just has the payway in there, right? Because if that building or if that tenant right there leaves, it might take me 6 months, a year, 2 years to find a new tenant.
Okay.
Okay. What I'm looking for is I like the medical field. I like the industrial field. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen your doctor move to a new location?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've asked this question to probably 50, 60 people in the last year. And that's been the question 100% of the time. I've yet to have somebody say, yeah, my doctor moved. I'm sure it happens, but it's not often. It's the point. Okay.
All right. Can I ask you a question? So when you're flipping houses, you're like, all right, cool. I flipped a house. I made a payday. Great. But I now have no unearned income. So then you start being a landlord, right? And then you're like, okay, so now I have, 5-10 years of equity built up, and I'm getting unearned income. Yeah, a little bit of work, a little management. So then you're like, all right, let me supercharge this. And I'm going to go multifamily, buy an apartment complex. Now I got multiple tenants, and you're supercharging that. But you've basically said, look, I don't want to have a multi-personal tenant. I don't want multiple homes. I want multiple businesses as a triple net. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I'm not buying a business. I just own the buildings that they're in, right? So, but here's the thing: like as I get older, I don't want to deal with all these residential tenants. Like, in my opinion, like maybe if I was investing in A class, B class, but I mean, you get where typically we all end up going is in the B minus and below, C and below, right?
Right.
So then you have these. They don't give a damn about your asset. They're destroying your property on the way out. You get people like look what just happened throughout this whole thing in 2020 2021 where the government's basically stating you don't have to pay your rent, right? So you have all these and then you can't go. I mean they I don't know that it was really directly said that way, but you can't fight it. You understand what I'm saying? You can't get them evicted. So you're just sitting there. It's a little different situation with businesses. If I have a problem, I can lock somebody out. I mean, it's a lot simpler of a process. I don't have to go through all this crap being worrying about residential tenants. And it's just like, I'm just looking to get into a different asset class, a bigger asset class, less headaches, have something that could be, I could put a tenant in place, have them vetted out, and have that go for 15, 20 years and just collect.
Got it. Got it. Now, Terry, you are further along in this process of flipping houses and having built up a net worth. Do you track your net worth? Do you actually like?
So many things have moved. The answer is no, not typically. I mean, if I'm working on something big and it's in my face, that's what it is. Actually, we're closing on I can't remember how many unit refi right now, cash out refi on a bunch. So honestly, I probably should know, but I don't deal with any of that stuff. I have a family office that deals with all my financials. I have a team of people that work on all the stuff. They bring paperwork to me and I sign off on it. I review it real quick. I sign off on it. So I'm sure I can find out within 10 minutes,
You could ask somebody.
but I'm worried about, like, not worried about, like, I concentrate on how to remove the needle in our businesses. Like, we have four not major, but four active businesses here. Like, how do I move the needle as a CEO of these companies, working with my executive team and then below to push things further along?
In buying some of these bigger properties, to underwrite the loan, don't they evaluate net worth and they'll say how much cash flow, what's your net worth, and they want to
100%.
they're trying to do
That's
this.
why I said I could find out this, because I have one going on right this minute. I know I can find out this answer in 5, 10 minutes.
Got it.
I'm just not looking at it or concentrating on it or worried about it. Like, I'm not looking at where I'm at. I'm looking at where I'm going.
Okay, makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so
I can tell you this: I never have problems getting loans.
okay, but for the people that are kind of getting started, like they paying attention to that, when does that? Because here's part of my understanding of it is that once you're covering your four walls, like love them or hate them, there's some things I like it about Dave Ramsey for the lowest common denominator. But as soon as you start getting past paying your four walls, what he calls, let's see, food, clothing, shelter, and transportation, then you start to get to this point where Dave Ramsey just doesn't make sense anymore. And so then money starts to become a game, right? You're like, how do I grow this? I just want to win. I don't, you're not really paying attention to all those details anymore. You're just like, I like winning. I'm addicted to winning
Yeah,
now. So how do I do the next
exactly.
how do I do the next thing? So um I want you
And
to
just for clarity, I think I can't stand Dave Ramsey. I think Dave Ramsey is for everybody except for an entrepreneur. When you get into the entrepreneurial state, now there's a whole nother similar but more for business, which is profit first model, that you would follow. It's kind of a similar model, but that's for business.
right. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of Dave Ramsey too much, but like for the lowest common denominator who is in debt, spends more than they earn, like
100%.
he's pretty good. Like if you're an alcoholic, I say stay out of the bar. And if you're in debt, cut up the credit cards, do all that stuff. Great. But as soon as you start getting past that point, again, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So
Exactly.
what would be what I have a few questions I ask everybody. I'd really like to hear your answers. What do you think is one of the best investments you've ever made?
Best investments I've ever made. I mean, real estate. Well, honestly, I'm gonna back up, because it's not a physical thing. I think the best investments that I've ever made is investing into myself and my team and my business with personal development. That's honestly by far the best investments that I've ever made. Now, what comes out of that with all of these other things, there's all kinds of assets and investments that way, but we're constantly investing into ourselves, into my kids, into my team. Like, we have business coaches. We have business coaches for I have people for myself, people for my leaders, my team. Like, I honestly believe that's the best investment
So then
that you can put.
what's one of the first investments that helped set you on that trajectory? Like I bought the book I look at my library all the time. I bought the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Sure.
Changed my life. Like I started thinking differently. It was
Yep.
probably one of the best
So I
investments.
bet here's my thing. I started in business. Sorry, I started in the real estate industry in 2002. Okay, so we're 20 years later. Um, in 2012, I learned about financial education. I learned about investing in yourself. I feel like I was robbed for 10 years because I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. I thought the only other way to get an education is to go to college, go to school.
Right.
I didn't know that there was mentorships and all these other different masterminds and such. I didn't know it existed. Now, had I known about that in 2002, where I'd be today, I mean, I'd be 10 years further along, put it that way. And in the last 10 years, there's been so much massive growth on top of the first 10 years. It's like not even comparable. So my first investment into myself was, it's funny, it was actually, believe it or not, it was Fortune Builders. And it gave me enough to get things to another level, open up my mindset, being around other like-minded individuals, because I was on my own little island at the time. Like it was just me,
Right.
meaning there wasn't all this, you understand what I'm saying? You know what it's like when we get in these masterminds and events, like you get around people and you think different. I'll just give you an example. I mean, the obvious comes in front of you. There was this scenario. I was just at the Coaches Hero Mastermind event with Tim May. Just got back Saturday night, and I'm talking to one of the guys there that's actually here in Wilmington, and we're having this conversation. I'm like, man, I was like, I'm struggling with the fact that we're getting a property in contract with a seller, and then we have to wait 30 days, 60 days, whatever, for the seller to get out of the property, get into their new property. In the meantime, some other person, some other wholesaler comes and offers them, or somebody else comes and offers them 30,000 more, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not closing with you anymore, I'm going with a higher offer.
Right.
Well, he's like, well, why don't you just close on them immediately within 3 to 10 days? He's like, get title search, do this, and boom, close on them. And then you own the property, you control the property, and then from whatever, you can do a rent back, all that. And I'm like, it's just the obvious, like, why didn't I think of that? It's the most silly, like you just want to slap yourself across the face because it's so silly that we didn't think about this. But getting in front of like-minded individuals and just hearing a different perspective, it's like a light bulb will go off. It's not like mind-blowing things, and it might be a mind-blowing result, but it's just like the littlest tweak about being around people like that. So when I went to my first mentorship, for me, prior to 2008-9, I used to go to a bank and get my loans. Literally, I used to go to, back then it was Wachovia, which is now bought out by Wells Fargo. I used to go to a Wachovia Bank right over here in North Hills, and we would get loans to buy houses, build houses, and a lot of times it would be 100% lending to it, and I wouldn't give them my social security number. It was just like, it was the craziest thing. So when I heard on the radio, oh, flip houses, buy houses with none of your own money, I'm like, oh, I got to learn more about this. And
Right.
that's when I went there, and that's when I became a believer, and I've been drinking the juice ever since. And last year we invested multiple six figures into myself, my team. We're already on track to do at least that this year. It was over 200,000 last year. We'll do at least 200,000 this year.
Do you have any way to measure like your ROI on these things that you're
Some of them I have a direct measurable ROI. Some of them do. Like, for example, we're working with Gary Harper, for example. Gary Harper Business. Like, it's very specific on what we're doing, that I can say from October when we hired him to today, what kind of things have changed and how have we increased in business, right? And then I can take now from, what are we in, April till 6 months from now, and that's where real measure is going to be. The first was implementation build, and now now it's go time. Now we have, like, literally what we did is we put together specific KPIs to measure every single thing. So I can track everything from pre-Gary to after Gary.
right? Huh.
You know what I'm saying? But then I have life coaches. I I have a health coach. I have somebody that I'm at the gym with every single morning at 6 a.m. She's also, making sure, checking on my food, checking on, all these different things. Yeah, there's all kinds of different metrics that we can track with that. But then you have a life coach. A life coach is a little different. There's mindset. You understand what I'm saying? That's not as trackable.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Going to a mastermind at Tim's mastermind, going to where I just came from. Yeah, I talked to a lot of people, made a lot of connections, relationships. I don't know that it's really directly trackable. Does that make sense?
but it does influence up here, which is
1,000,000%.
right. Definitely something that you want to have to just open your mind up to all these other possibilities. I mean, you wouldn't have ever thought to, invest in real estate if you hadn't had somebody say, "Oh yeah, you know what? Your house isn't an asset unless somebody else is paying for it," right? so,
Yeah.
um, so as far as the best investment you've ever made, you said kind of educational stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Did you are you a reader? I'm a big reader. I have stacks of books. What's some of the books that you would say?
I'm a listener.
Well, yeah, I'm a podcast or Audible.
Audiobooks.
I'm a big
Yeah.
Audible guy. I mean,
Me too.
I'll send you my list. The book on flipping, Compound Effect, great book. Vivid Visions, Extreme Ownership, Think and Grow Rich. I just read this one recently. Because I'd heard Think and Grow
What,
Rich.
Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah, like I
That's a classic.
I thought I
should
had
have been one of the first, right after Rich Dad Poor Dad.
right. I thought I had read it, or maybe I just felt like I think I just picked it up because I was like, have I actually read that book? I know I have it somewhere, and I finally listened to it all over again through Audible, and it was really really kind of interesting because they talk about masterminds and how to expand your thought, and how the creation of wealth is really just it starts with an idea. So,
Yeah.
what's some of your top 10 books, or not 10, but
I'm flipping through right here. Like I've got some. I love books, and it's not rarely. It's rare that I'll actually read a book and be like, this was a waste of time. Because typically, most of I would say, I'm not the guy who goes and finds the books. Every time I go to these events, I literally have this list of backlog of books that I need to be reading. But I go to an event, hey, this book changed my life, this, and I write every single one of them down. So I just kind of go through them. But I'll tell you, Mike McElowitz, Profit First, and then the Pumpkin Plan were two, to me, mind blowing. And I think it's because I go to the next book based on where I am currently in life. Right. If I'm at an event and someone's like, oh, you got to read this book, Profit First, because it just changed my life. It was like a Dave Ramsey for business, like on steroids, and really showed us how to really pay ourselves first. And you know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, that would be nice. Let me get on that. And so that's how I go to the next one. I'll tell you one. Actually, this one was referred to me, was The Great Game of Business. I read that book about, I don't know, about a year and a half ago when I moved to Cabo, when I was living in Cabo for 6 months. I remember every morning at the gym that I used to go to in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and I'd be looking out the window at this amazing view and listening to that book. That was a really good book. I mean, I love The Great Game of Business right here, Jack Stack and Bo Burlington. Another one that I've actually, Who Not How, Dan Sullivan. That right there, that was it just great book. A book for those books that just kind of fire you up, like 10x, right? Like
right.
Grant Cardone 10x. Like another one is, believe it or not, 50 Cent. Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. I mean, I love hearing those books. I mean, if you want to go back even further, Donald Trump, the art of the what is it?
Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal.
Right.
At that particular time, like that was a book I just kept hearing, almost like the Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad Poor Dad books that I would hear about all the time. And I remember reading that book, and honestly, that was like a who not how moment for me. And I read that book, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it was like, I remember him talking about how to find the top people in the industry to do things. And he would just go to the competitors, people who's doing it at the highest level, and go approach those people and just pay them better, make it a better culture, better everything. And I'm like, brilliant.
Right.
Why start from scratch, starting over, training someone from the bottom? Like, let's go find the guy and start that way, or the woman. You know what I'm saying? So I
Th-
thought,
this gets me thinking like about my kids are going through judo or isn't it judo
jujitsu.
jiu-jitsu with oh crap, my mind's not here, but anyway, so you got to go through like the different ranks, the belts and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, all right, so you don't start with black belt moves with somebody that just started. You got to work your way up. And so I was thinking like there ought to be a book roadmap. Like you said, oh, you should have read Think
That's
and Grow
actually
Rich a long time ago. You're right. I should have. Why didn't I do that? Because it wasn't on my, I didn't check it off. Like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I should like check off these different books and kind of like, because your mind won't absorb certain content because you're not there yet, right?
exactly. It's gotta be next season of life for you.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm thinking of like, all right, how do I make my white belt, I don't know,
I love
green,
that.
blue, like map it out and say this is the way I would start, right? Again, like Dave Ramsey, okay, cool, white belt. But like, dude, if you take your white belt move and try to use it against the black belt, they're gonna,
Forget it.
yeah, I mean, you're done. um,
Exactly. No, that's a great idea. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put that on an idea list for sometime in the future. That I'm going to take all my books and say this is probably the order that they should be read in. But at the same time, look, it's like this. I'll give an example. I don't know that it's always like that. I think that there's white belt, and then there's a group of like, the top 5 belts, right? That,
right.
and it's all depends on where you're at in your career, your development, your journey that you would go to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there's old saying by Bruce Lee. He said, "I fear not the man who knows 10,000 kicks, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times."
10,000 times. Right.
So
Exactly.
there's, you got to come back to the basics, right? And some of the basics build upon themselves, but then there are these extraordinary strategies, if you will, that you're not
Yeah.
even you're not going to go out and buy a triple net lease multi business property right out the gate.
Yeah.
Can you? I
Right.
mean, I tell me
Sure.
how.
Well, yes. The answer is yes. That's what I mean by it's journeys. Like somebody might get into like, I just want to wholesale houses, and I'm going to do it by driving neighborhoods and finding that crappy house and calling on those people. Another person might have a budget where they worked a multiple 6 figure income, executive income, and they have the cash to invest into marketing. Another, like, there's a lot of people out there, like, I never want to build a team. I want everything to be virtual. I never want to have an office. You know what I'm saying? But then there's people like me where I like business. I love to invest in business. Like one of the things that I want, another thing that I want to get into. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I think that's going to be on next year's goals because I'm focusing on this triple net lease thing to get this thing going first this year. So next year, I want to start buying businesses.
Right.
I want to start looking for specific businesses that are at a certain point because I know how to make businesses grow. It's just like a thing that I have. Like, what do they say? Your superhero, superpower, or whatever you call it. Like I have a way of taking complicated things, simplifying them, and showing and putting the right people in place to be able to scale. So that's why I want to get into that, right? So therefore, I like having a big office and a lot of people and culture and all that stuff. So I may be buying books that are more around that, where other people might be buying things around different types, how to invest and be a one-man operation, not one-man operation, but not having the whole team and culture and business and all that, how to outsource everything. Make sense?
Right. Is buying a business kind of like buying a property that already has a tenant in it? Because then
Yeah,
you're like, all right, we're gonna have to get rid of some. We're gonna have to keep the ones that we like,
sure.
and then we'll turn them over and grow it. And then you're kind of, it's like I'm always trying to go from point A to point B, and the only way to do that is to understand like where I'm currently at. How do I take what you just said and make it so I actually understand it? I got a
Right.
book. I got a book recommendation for you. It's called The Unfair Advantage. It was written by a guy named Chet Holmes, and I guess he worked with Charlie Munger. But that's one of my all-time favorites. I got to go back and read that one again. It's so good. But for the systems guy like you, he's got a lot of really interesting stuff. So I have another another one for you. What's one of like when you buy a business or you're buying something like that, what's one of your best ways to market to them? Like, how are you finding the wholesale deals? How are you finding the businesses? I'm assuming that's kind of different, or is it
Yeah,
more?
so I mean, yeah, it's going to be completely different, and I don't know the answer to that question because I haven't done it yet. I only know because I'm in some masterminds. I have a bunch of friends that are doing it currently right this minute. Guess what I'm going to do when I'm ready to buy businesses? Come on, what's a guess?
What are you going to do when you are ready to
I'm going
start?
to hire a mentor that's doing this at a highest level that can show me exactly how to do it without screwing up. And it doesn't matter what it costs because it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than me trying to figure it out myself. I'm going to get there faster and I'm going to have less mistakes.
Right. And there has to be somebody out there that's doing it.
There's many people. I already pretty much know who I'm going to be working with. Well, there's a couple that I'll still sit down and vet. But yeah, I mean that's what I'm going to do. Same thing with this triple net. I'm talking with somebody, or not. I'm talking with somebody. We've committed to uh, putting this whole thing together. We're starting to figure out the market, not figure out the market. He owns multiple. So I'm like, look, let's partner up together. Let's go through the motions on a few of them, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And then guess what? I'm going to grow wings and I'm going to fly off and I'm going to know how to do this. And I'm
Right.
going to know how to do this at a high level. Does it make sense? Maybe
Yeah.
we continue to do partner up on deals and maybe I decide to go other directions and do some of my own deals.
Right. So how do you actually use your ability to be a good mentor, and also then you're a protege in one sense, right? You're learning from other people, but you're
Yep,
also this
always.
incredible mentor. Hold on a second. Let me switch my hat up. If you guys don't
Nice.
know, also Terry also has the tab retreats and he does tab training. You're also this incredible mentor. So do you take what you're learning and apply that into your trainings as well? And how do you see yourself as a mentor? How do you see yourself as a protege? Just kind of
Sure.
curious because
Well,
I
first
that's
off,
what I
thank
want to
you.
do too. I would like to be, I think we're all like I have something to give to other people at this point. I want to
Yeah.
train people. I'm trying to start a podcast and educate people, but like maybe I couldn't educate you. I'm not ready to teach you, Terry, how to go out and do this other thing. I'm trying to learn some of the other stuff that you've already mastered.
There's always something that you can learn from anybody. So when you go, so I would never have that mindset. I'm sure you and I could sit down and have a conversation and you give me an aha moment of something I can implement in my life or business. There's things that you know that I don't know and vice versa. So to answer your question, number one, how would I be a good mentor if I didn't have the thing that I'm mentoring about going on? I didn't have my own, not prototype, but my own actual business happening, and because it's constantly changing. Like if I was one of them, excuse my language, dipshits who over there they've done one deal and now they're doing nothing but education, but they don't have the actual business going on every single day. I would still be doing the exact same marketing I was doing 4, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. That does not work today. You understand what I'm saying? So how could I be a good mentor? So I'm constantly evolving and changing. On top of that, if I'm not drinking the juice and I think I'm, too proud to go get mentorship, I'm not growing. And if you're not growing, you're what?
Dead.
Dying, right? So
Right.
it's like I constantly want to be working my mind and how can I learn what I don't know. And I've done it the hard way. The
Right.
hard way is ridiculous, doesn't make sense. It takes a long time. Everyone thinks, oh, I can't, I don't have the money to invest into this right now. I can't afford this. And the way I look at it is like you can't afford not to do it because it's going to cost you more time and money at the end. You can get more money, you can't get more time.
Right.
So how do I get there in a straight line versus doing all this crap and get there fast?
So I was in the military, and my drill sergeant had this saying. He said, "If you're going to go through a minefield, follow someone." And so I kind of took that with me, and that's why I'm like, all right, I'm going to read the books because I don't get to spend time with like Tony Robbins or Donald Trump or whoever, like Warren Buffett. But some of these guys actually read their own books, so I can sit there and actually like
Mhm.
hear Tony Robbins talking to me, telling me, "Hey, here's what you got to do." So,
Exactly.
so that's the same thing. How do you I'm gonna get personal here, but like you have kids.
I do.
How do you mentor them, and what are your like? I have struggles with my kids cleaning up after themselves. Hey, man, you know what's the big thing? I don't really care if they get a B, like or a C or a D. I really don't care. I'm all about your character and are you
Yeah.
actually trying? Did you do this? Because when you see a whole bunch of my one of my kids, he got a couple of zeros on his report card. The teacher sent me a message. Hey, zero doesn't average well. Okay, I got it. I know that, right? But like we're trying to develop character. What's some of the I'm really curious, because I mean, what are you doing with your kids? How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking? Around.
So my oldest from previous is 25, and then at home we have an 18-year-old daughter. She just turned 18. She's gonna be graduating high school soon. She has her own business that she started, and then I have an 11-year-old son who's about to be 12 here very soon.
Okay. So my kids are 9 and 11, and I'm excited to take them out to the Tab retreat. That's a bring your family. Another plug.
Nice. Yep. Yep.
I believe it's tabretreat.com. Isn't that your?
Yeah. Yeah. So that particular site's tabretreat.com. It's a events and education company. So Tab Tribe takes you to everything. Tabtribe.com takes you to everything. We've got anything from mentorship, digital products, events that we do, that retreat that we've done every September now for, I believe this is the sixth one that we've done. This one's going to be in Jamaica.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So uh, having your dad, my dad probably said the same thing. Quit hanging out with that idiot. You hang out with idiots, you're gonna wind up one, right? And
exactly.
so that's why you call it the Tab Tribe. Pick your tribe. You gotta
Yep.
hang out with people that are growing and going in the right direction. How do you help your kid? I mean, I'm gonna ask about your 12-year-old really because you're and if you want to plug your daughter's business, go for it, man. I'd love to help out.
Yeah.
I try to work with people that are starting their own businesses and help them as well. So
Sure. So yeah, I beat my kids a lot. No, I'm kidding. I tell what's funny is I tell people that I'll be with my kids and I'll be like, they're like, man, your kids are they're like little angels and all this. I'm like, yeah, I beat them a lot. My kids are like, looking side eyed. They're like, yeah, right, dad. Like
right,
they know I'm the softest thing on the planet. So it's funny to see people's reactions when I do that. Look, people, how especially kids, monkey see, monkey do, right? We learn by what we see, what our environment is. So if I was a lazy piece of shit who sat on the couch, didn't do nothing, didn't go to work, didn't do anything, and wasn't an earner and didn't show up at the highest level and didn't constantly grow, and you know what I'm saying, they would be that same person. They would be a product of their environment.
right,
So I just try to encourage, I not push but encourage um entrepreneurship. We homeschool our kids because I pulled them out of the school system because, in my opinion, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's toxic. And I don't want them in the typical public or private school system because people, oh, yeah, private this. In a lot of cases, private's even worse, in my opinion, right? So we hire a teacher for our kids full time. They're with our kids all day during the day. We have requirements because we don't want them just to be sitting there not being around kids. Like we need to make sure that they're in extracurricular activities, that they're around kids all the time. So very similar to being in school without having the toxicity of what these schools provide. So my kids, for example, let's go to my 18-year-old for a quick sec. About a year or so ago, it's been over a year, a little better than a year ago. she was talking about, I'm going to be graduating next year, what some things that she wants to do. So I was pitching some ideas, like you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, just giving her some ideas. And she's like, well, what about the Amazon store thing? I'm like, great idea. She's kind of an introvert, but she isn't. She's like, I don't know, she shows up well, but when she's in front of people, she's like great. She's not like timid little person hiding in a corner, but she prefers to not be that person. Does that make sense?
Right.
So she wanted to be on Amazon store. She could sit there from her computer. She could work at any time. She could build an Amazon store. So I've been working on Amazon store since 2017. I certainly can show her what to do.
Sure.
But can I give her the best attention? Do I have courses on it? Do I have, that whole thing about, parents and kids, like, how are they going to listen to me as much as, you know what I'm saying, accountability, all that, without looking at like more like a authority figure, right?
Right. Right.
So I'm like, okay, I reach out to some people that are teaching this, a friend of mine, and I'm like, look, I was like, you've got this course, you've got this mentorship on this. I want to put my daughter in it, and I paid for everything in upfront, and she runs her business, and she's been doing it for a little over a year now. My son wants to get into NFTs,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, well, I need a maturity level first. I need to know that you're serious. I know that you're going to take this serious and put the time and invested into it, because there's a lot of, if you don't take this serious, you can be scammed. It could cost a lot of money. And therefore, we've been working to build that up to get him ready. And then guess what I'm going to do? Hire him a mentor to help him get to his goals.
How does your 12-year-old and he's talking NFTs?
He's 11. He's
11.
11. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
How did he
Yeah.
where did that come from?
Who knows? TikTok. I don't know. I have no idea. Who knows where it started, but he's interested in it. But until he's really invested into it, I'm not gonna invest into him, because I want him to take it serious.
Right.
Like right now, his big thing is basketball. Not only is he on teams, but I also hired him a coach, private coach, that coaches him outside of the teams, almost like Michael Jordan had Tim Grover,
Right.
right? Like that type of person that works with them to get him to be better.
Yeah, so you're taking this coaching thing seriously. And do you want your kids to go to like college?
Um, the answer is no. I don't want them to, just because how many people do you know that go to college and actually come out and got benefit from it and actually doing something? I'd
Right.
rather have them in something sports or business or something that works that muscle on that side. And then if they want to go, if they are looking to specifically go to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, that needs that degree, needs a license, needs something like that, I'm all for it and I'll support you.
Sure.
Okay. But I know, like my daughter at one point in time, she's like, oh yeah, I want to be a writer. I'm like, babe, let's look at the facts, because she's bougie. Let me tell you, she is not gonna be happy with bougie or with writing pay, unless she was like some big author, the Harry Potter author or something, making all this kind of money, right? She
Sure.
loves reading books. I'm like, that's a hobby, not a profession. I'm like, and we started looking at all different ways, different types of writers, different types of, editors, and different levels and what you do and pays and researching it. She's like, yeah, okay, that's a hobby. What
Have
do I want to do?
well have you gone to like I think it's like salary.com or something and typed in writer and it's like
Yeah.
you could make
Oh yeah,
$13,000 to $40,000 a year, and
exactly.
so you're like, okay, 13 to 40.
We
I,
went to multiple different sites.
Yeah, because I mean that's the interesting thing is if you type in like entrepreneur, it's like you could make 0 to like $1 billion because
Right.
that's the entrepreneurial scope. But like
Exactly.
with certain jobs, right? The ones that are more defined as like you're a plumber, you're a writer, you're a whatever it is, graphic design guy. It's like you can like you've hired all these contractors. You kind of know like What do you pay a plumber? Like, do you have an idea? Like, if I said, "Hey, you got to replace a hot water heater,"
I don't know because I don't replace hot water heaters, but new construction's like 650 a fixture. I know those numbers, but I mean to replace a hot water heater, you're probably talking 12, 1400 bucks.
well, I mean, whatever it might be, but you know that
Yeah,
there's a range that, like, all right, I don't care if you're the savant of hot water heaters. The range is 100 to 200 bucks to install it or whatever it is. I mean,
yeah,
but like, all right, look, you're really good, so you get 200 bucks. Like, you're not going to make $2 million doing that. There's
exactly.
there's just no way, right? So that's where you got to look at it and say, all right, so then are you going to be a teacher of something? Because teachers, well, I mean, sometimes teachers can actually make some pretty good income. I got another preloaded question, unless you got something else to add.
No, no. I mean, we can go on. I can go on all day long with all this stuff.
Well, I'm curious if you could go back in time and
Yep.
meet yourself. What age would you meet yourself, and what advice would you give?
I would probably hit myself at a couple of different places. Number one, I think I would start around 14, 15 years old and tell myself to get around different people that are more influential and get away from these morons that are just going to get you in trouble. And then I would jump back out and I would come. That should set me up for a few years. And then maybe around 18, 19, 20, hop back in again. And I would say, um, I was always taught to work hard. The harder you work, the more you make. And I would teach myself to work smarter, right? Don't work. I've literally luckily I was able to get in front of the right people at the right time to learn business and be able to scale business because I was literally contemplating shutting everything down and going to work for somebody at more of a higher level. This is where my mindset was before I learned about mentorship and all that because my body is beat up.
Right.
I grew up as a carpenter. I played football. I all these different things. I don't need to go sports, all this stuff, right? And my body's beat up. So I literally, even up until 2002, when I started mentorship and I'm flipping houses, I would have a tool all the time and be at my own jobs doing this stuff, which is silly.
Do
So
Well, so do you? I still struggle with that. Like, I have a small crew, and we're flipping, a couple of houses. We renovate places, rent them out. But like, when I'm around like these guys, and I like the guys that I'm working with, they're great guys, but their definition of work is like, oh yeah, I put in a hard day's work. I sweated. I feel it, man. Oh
and
wow.
you almost feel bad if you're not doing it with them.
And I'm like, what the heck did I do? Right? I mean, like, um, I, I feel bad about that because, like, all right, and like some of these guys, the other thing that really screws with my mind is hiring guys that are like double my age, not double anymore because I'm 42, but like guys that are 10 years, 20 years, 30 years older than me that are still working, swinging a hammer, doing whatever. It's like it's the idea of hard work. Then you're like, all right, well, I can call I call Debbie, my assistant, and have her go ahead and hey, I need you to do some stuff and set other things up. I'm looking at it like I would rather be the guy that just keeps everybody else working. So it's like if somebody at the Legacy Mastermind said, "You getting down there swinging a hammer, you helping these guys is the most selfish thing you can do." And I was like, "What? I'm helping. I'm trying to be a good person and
You're
stuff." And it's
costing them their future and their next job and their next steadiness.
yeah.
Like you're providing the opportunity.
So then he was like, "You need to get out and find the next deal. You need to go out and actually build something better." Plus, my wife still works. She's got a job. She wants to feel that security of insurance and a steady income. Well, you flip a house, you can make, we've made some good money flipping houses. But it's not steady income. Like, I don't have that. in the budget, it'll say nothing, 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 expense, 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 and then hopefully
Income.
income, right? And it's like, all right, so that doesn't fly. That doesn't fly for my wife. So she still actually does a job and stuff, but it's like you're being selfish because you haven't yet figured out how to make it where she has the security net to the point where it doesn't have to do anything. I was like, that's a good kick in the mouth.
So let me comment on that. That's a reason why I don't care about flipping. Yeah, we've made some decent money flipping, six figures, typical flip. But for us, because I would only take these major ones on, that would take us 6, 8, 9 months to flip, right? But then I look at the timeline. How much did I make per month on that whole thing? We're flipping contracts now. We've got the marketing side so down pat. We just flipped the contract. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram and see his stories, but one of my guys just posted uh, Friday, Saturday, whatever. He just flipped the contract that's going to bring in $210,000 because it's going to a developer because it has a house on 6 acres in a prime area. We were going to develop it ourselves, but it got to the point where we're like, man, the time and all this. Yeah. So if we wait 3, 4 years, we can pull $4 million, $4 or $5 million out of this, maybe even more with appreciation. But it's not our thing. We like to stay in our lane. And guess how long the close is? 15 days. So in 15 days from basically, contract to close, I don't have to have expense income. Like we're turning contracts every 2 to 6 or a contract in 2 to 6 weeks, depending on many variables. Therefore, we're getting paid faster on a lot of these deals. That makes sense?
Right. So just if we took 365 divided by 15 days, that's 24 times $210,000. That's $5 million a year. But that's
Yeah.
if you could keep doing that, which it sounds like you guys. I mean, not every
Yeah. Yeah.
wholesale.
We're turning contracts. We're doing, I mean, in that company alone, right this minute, it fluctuates. We have good months, bad months, carryovers, and all that. I would say between 200,000 and 400,000 right this minute, but we're doing some different things right now that we're shooting to have that company consistently hitting $1 million a month by the end of the year. And I truly believe that we'll do it with some scaling, duplication, more people, more marketing, all this stuff.
Got it. If if you're gonna have somebody that said, have you ever? All right, you've watched Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the scene where the one guy's in a diner and I think the guy goes, "How much? That's a nice car. How much did you make? Last month, $74,000 or something." He goes, "You show me a check for $74,000. I quit my job today. I come work for you." Right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, I mean, have you met guys that say that and are serious? They're like, "I'm gonna come work for you," and dropped everything and just
I
you,
haven't.
you
That
show
would
me
be pretty
like,
cool though.
I mean, you show me a check for $210,000. I drop everything and come work for you, like, because that
Yeah,
just sounds insane to some people. They're like, some people they work their whole year and they're not making that.
just doing. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So it was actually pulled. Yeah, he showed a picture of two checks totaling up to $21,000, and that equates to 10% as a deposit, and then we'll close on it in 15 days. So, yeah, I mean, no, I mean, we get people attract to us by different things that we're doing on social, and they see the culture, they see different things that are being posted, and yeah, they come to us, but nobody's ever said, show me this. I think they could see in different things. Like one of the things I posted this morning was I pulled the Lamborghini out of the garage for a minute to clean up some stuff, move some things around because I've got somebody coming to detail it today, and I just wanted to get it prepared because I won't be there. So I posted like it sounds so. I love the car so much. Like it's not about flashy bougie. I love cars. Like one day I want to. In the next couple of years, I'm hoping that I can be at a point in my life where I can do a lot of traveling and start racing cars. I want to race cars. I want to learn. I want to get a coach. I want to You know what I'm saying? I love cars. That's why I do it. And it sounded so damn good. So I just like posted, and then people get attracted from stuff like that. And then they come through. Yeah, I want to learn what you're doing. Yeah, we've got a mentorship. We've got positions. What are you looking to do?
Right.
And then our team will filter through.
So I got a question about daily routine and then KPIs for your team, because like you have a daily routine, and then also you have to have some kind of,
Yep.
you're going to practice what you preach, right? So what is some of the stuff that's in your daily routine? I know you work out. What did you say? 5 in the morning, 6
Yep.
in the morning?
Yeah, I get up at 5. I'm at the gym by 6, home by 7:15 ish, 7:10, 7:15. Typically, I don't do a big breakfast. I do this protein, berries and spinach and peanut butter power or butter power and or powder and all that stuff, and drink that down. I'm good till like lunchtime. I don't like to eat heavy in the morning. Every once in a while, but get my kids up, spend a little bit of time with them, get ready for work. And I'm typically in the office by around 9 o'clock. So I've got the first, what is that, 4 hours of the day?
Right.
Um, yeah, four. Start questioning myself in math there. First 4 hours of the day that's me time
Now, do
before
you
everything. Like I don't look at email. I'm not doing like I do a post every single morning, typically, or a story, or I'll write notes of something that we should film for another day or something. I usually take about 15-20 minutes every morning to do that while I'm clear before I get in this office and all that. And then my routine at the office is getting ready to dramatically change because we just met with Sharper, Gary and Susan Harper. Just met with them. They came here for 2 days and we restructured, reorg charted some things and what what different people should be doing. So my days are going to be more posting content, doing YouTube, doing podcasts, um, setting up some time to solve problems, get on other people's podcasts and such like this here, and go until my goal is in the next month or two to get it to where I'm cutting out around 5, back with the kids, hanging out, and I'm usually shutting it down by like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Right. So, I mean, that has a certain level of efficiency you have to have, though, right? Because
Yeah,
most people, I think they only really work like half the day, maybe, right? If you
yeah,
go into a coffee break and you're standing around the water cooler or whatever, so you're trying to be more efficient with your time. Um,
yeah.
so with your team, you have KPIs that you're tracking. Like, how often do you meet with your team, and what's some of the if you were going to do an 80-20 analysis of like what's the stuff that you really need to track all the time and what's the stuff that every once in a while.
There's 4 main companies that we're dealing with, right? So the way we're doing it now is we've got our executive team, which is CEO, COO, CMO, CFO, like those type of people.
Sure.
And then in each one of the companies, there's a leader. Basically, that's almost like a COO of each company, each individual company. So you've got the executive team up here, and then there's the 4 different main companies, and then each one of those have a leader. So they each meet separately, and they have all their KPIs and tracking that they're doing every single week. So that's more micro. Okay, they have an issues board, level 10 meetings that they're doing, and then once a week I'm meeting with my executive team and all my leaders. So what we're doing in there is we have more of a macro view on the KPIs. I don't care about the what it takes to get to X. I care about X.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So each company has multiple. I mean, there's so many KPIs. I can go on for days and days and days and days and days on KPIs. They have stuff that they're tracking every single day. They have stuff that they're tracking weekly, monthly, quarterly, all that. There's at our metrics, it's like we have quarterly financial goals that we need to get to. If we're not on track of hitting that quarterly financial goal, there's an issue. Why are we not getting there? Typically, they solve that in their meetings with their team, and that issue is brought to the executive team or the leadership team meeting, which is once a week held on Wednesdays. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, okay, if we're not hitting this, what is going on? And then that's what I'm strategizing with them and
Right.
how to get to that point, me and the executive team.
So you've heard the term pyramid scheme over and over again, but
Oh, yeah.
when I was in the military, everything looked like a pyramid. I mean, you always
Yeah.
had you have the president, then you have these two, and then there's all these other people. Every business looks like, you know, you have one guy that's got to have the leadership, the vision, and then he's got his team. Um,
Yeah.
so it's interesting because when I was in the military, obviously, you know, the privates, they weren't talking to the general. General probably, I mean, might have seen him once, but like
Right. Right. Right.
you might not know everybody, and it doesn't mean like you don't care, but you're spending your time in the most effective manner managing um managing the right thing for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
those KPIs, there's a lot more at a lower level, and they just kind of crunch up and get. And it's like this. I wouldn't say I'm the leader, I'm the top, I'm the this, that, the other thing. There's a visionary in every company, which those are far and few to come by,
right.
and then there's implementers, right? Different levels. So I'm the visionary for our ecosystem. Our ecosystem consists of four main companies. There's a fifth company that's more on the passive side of things, that doesn't have as many moving parts, that doesn't need now. At the same time, we're getting ready to turn that into something else that's going to be a fifth active company in the near future that is going to have a team running it versus how it is currently. Yeah, so I want to solve bigger problems. Don't come with me all these little details. Like you'll lose me. Like I have no interest in it. I don't have any focus for it. I have no energy for it. But you come to me with a big problem that's like, we're not hitting this, and this is what I think, and here's all the data, then it's almost, to me, I feel like I'm playing chess. I'm not on the chessboard. I'm up above the chessboard looking down, like, scratching my head. Okay, what could be the next move? If we do this and this and this, boom, we can checkmate. And that's how I look at things. I strategize on the business from a different view, just to where we need to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you want to be in what is it? In your business? Not no. You want to what's the word? You want to work on your
Be
business.
working on my business versus in the business.
Right,
Look,
right,
every sports team at a high level, let's talk about football. You've got a head coach, you've got an assistant coach, you've got an offensive line coach or offensive coach, you've got a defensive coach, you've got an offensive line coach, a defensive line, like all these different strength and conditioning. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Right? It's the same thing. And then you've got the players. It's help to get the players at the highest level.
awesome. So you also do some work with your wife, right? Your wife is
Yeah.
intimately
Yep.
involved in a lot of what you got going on. As a power team or a power couple, like I mean, I've met your wife. She's awesome. She really knows her stuff, right?
Yeah.
How does that affect your marriage? Like,
It's great. We're about to celebrate our 10 years of marriage. We just had hit our 16th year together, back in January, and we're a couple weeks from our 10-year. We're gonna go down to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, the two of us, and celebrate for an entire week and just get away. I would say that you have to. I get this question often. How do you have a good marriage and work together? You stay in your lane, right? You have to try. You have to empower that person to do what they do. One of the biggest, I think, mistakes that people make when they're, a couple working together. I see it over and over and over, and I'm guilty. I've been guilty of this as well. Oh, you go do all the books and all the, back end, admin type stuff, and I'm gonna produce and build a business. Well, guess what? Maybe she's better at producing and building a business, right? But at the end of the day, if she's not an accountant, why the hell is she running accounting?
right,
She's got a bookkeeper. Get a bookkeeper to run your books and figure out. So I think at the end of the day, what you need to do is you need to figure out your strengths and weaknesses. You need to divide and conquer. I see a lot of couples like, oh, let's go on appointments together. Let's go and like forget that. Like what's the point?
Right.
Like doing everything together. Like you do what you're best at, you do what you're best at, and let's crush it.
Good
And do
advice.
yeah. And then meet once a week, track each other's KPIs, empower each other, hold each other accountable.
I'm gonna write that one down. I mean, it's difficult sometimes being married because there's obviously my wife is in I don't know, in the terms of what was that one book, Rocket Fuel. I think that's where
Yeah,
the visionary and the implementer came into play, or
traction.
Dave Ramsey calls it, you have a nerd and a free spirit. You know, there's differences in your personality. My wife's super organized, and I'm kind of like, I'm not going to deal with the small stuff. Like
Yeah.
we've hired a bookkeeper, we have an accountant, we got a lot of stuff in place, but then also some of those things are, they cost money to have these people there. And then it's like, oh, well, that's an expense. I was like, no, it's not. It allows us to produce so much more elsewhere because it'll take me 10 times as long to do whatever it is, QuickBooks or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
It's costing you money not to have that person.
right, and so that's where the mindset shift has to come, for me and for my wife. So then I guess maybe I got to start a book club with my wife. Like, hey, we're gonna read this book together. Stuff like that. Because
Yeah, I mean, getting on the same page is crucial. Getting in the same mindset space is crucial. And like at the last event that we were at, that you came to, that workshop that we did for 2 days, I was sitting there with Brad in my office the day before, and he's working a job, and I said, let's break this. He's like, oh, how do I get there? So let's break this out. Well, the first question was, before we even start getting into numbers and financials and how this all works, is do you believe in yourself? Do you believe to the point that there's nothing that's going to stop you, and you're just going to go at the highest level and do whatever you can to make something work? Are you a hunter? Yes. Okay, great. Now here's what it looks like. And we started laying out numbers, and it was like, it's costing me money to have this job. Because he was like, oh, I've got a lot of medical issues. What do you call it? Healthcare. I'm getting this. If I didn't have the job, it was going to cost me X. I'm like, okay, well, and then we ran some numbers, and I'm like, look, if you only produce this, and it was a super low number, you're still making about $200,000-300,000 more a year than what you are in your job. And he's high net worth individual as a job, as a working for somebody else.
right, yeah, fantastic stuff. I'm gonna say, we're getting to the point where I'm gonna wrap this up, man. I really appreciate you being on the show. Tracking your net worth and tracking your cash flow are some things I recommend everyone do. And it's kind of interesting that when you get to that point, you're just like, I'm all go, right? I was talking to maybe I wasn't even talking to him. I was listening to an interview with Tony Robbins, and he was like, I wasn't tracking these certain things, and that's when he got taken for a ride. One of his key people started expensing a little too much, started doing a little too
Yeah,
much, and it actually cost him a lot. So I'm sure there's a balance there of holding on the reins a little bit too tight, or letting things go. But I've learned so much, and I am truly grateful for your time. I hope to see you in Jamaica real soon, and bring the kids, man. We'll have a good time.
absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I had fun.
And if anyone wants to know more about Terry and all he has going on, go to tabtribe.com.
Yeah,
That's
or best way to connect with me is Instagram, Terry Thayer, Terry, not Terrythayerii, and then Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
awesome. Cool. Well, hey, thanks so much. I appreciate you, and I look forward to having you on again. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks. Take care.
All right. Awesome.